Have you ever wondered, why does it hurt the most when you're trying to help? Why do the ones with the softest hearts often carry the heaviest silence? What if your kindness isn't saving you, but slowly undoing you? What if, in your pursuit to be good, gentle, selfless, you've given away every piece of yourself, and no one noticed? They told you kindness is strength, but they never warned you about the weight it brings when it's not returned. Today, we look into the shadows of compassion, the quiet consequences, the 8 ways kindness can ruin your life, not to stop you from being kind, but to help you finally be kind to yourself. You will be exploited, not because you're weak, not because you don't matter, but because you care too much. In a world that's forgotten how to care at all, they'll come to you with smiles, wounded, lost, burdened, and you, with your open heart, will say yes. Again and again. Yes, I can help. Yes, I'll stay late. Yes, I'll listen. Yes, I'll carry what you can't, and at first, it feels noble. You feel needed, important, kind, but slowly, subtly, your kindness becomes expected. And then, it becomes invisible. No one sees the quiet sacrifices anymore. No one asks if you're okay. They assume you are. Because you always are. Because you make sure everyone else is, before you even look in the mirror. But the truth? They're not asking because they care. They're not asking because they forgot. They're not asking because they've learned you won't say no. They'll offload their pain onto your shoulders. They'll fill your schedule, your inbox, your life with their chaos, wrapped in the excuse of friendship, family, or loyalty, and you, the ever-smiling giver, will bend just a little more. Until bending becomes breaking, but you won't complain. Because complaining feels selfish. And selfishness, you've been taught, is the opposite of love. But what if that was a lie? What if the greatest act of love is protecting your energy? What if saying no is the first step to saying yes to yourself? Because kindness without limits is not kindness. It is self-erasure, and in a world that keeps taking, you owe it to yourself to stop bleeding for those who would never bleed for you. You will be misunderstood. You think kindness is universal, that it speaks a language everyone understands. But in truth, kindness is often misread, distorted by eyes that only see what they want to see. You hold the door. You give them your time. You listen without waiting for your turn to speak. You forgive, again, but in return, they don't see grace. They don't see strength. They see softness as fragility, compassion as desperation, generosity as weakness. They'll ask, why are you being so nice? As if kindness must come with an agenda. As if there must be something wrong with you for simply being good, and slowly, your light becomes a question mark in their minds. They test you. Push your boundaries. Laugh when you don't fight back. Disregard your advice because it comes without ego or arrogance. Ignore your presence because it isn't loud, or proud, or cruel, and you'll start to question yourself. You'll wonder if kindness is worth it, when the world only seems to reward cruelty. But hear this, you are not wrong for being kind. They are wrong for not recognizing it. The tragedy isn't that you were misunderstood. It's that they were never taught how to understand someone like you, someone who gives without taking, someone who listens without judgment, someone who sees the pain in others, and still chooses to show up. But here's the truth, your soul wasn't built for recognition. It was built to heal, quietly, to care, deeply, even when no one notices. So be misunderstood, but never shrink. Let them misinterpret your kindness, just never let them convince you it's a flaw, because the world needs softness. Even if it hasn't yet learned how to receive it, you will attract the broken, and the dangerous. Kindness is a light. But not everyone is drawn to the light for warmth. Some come to feed off it, to drain it, to extinguish it. They don't come to heal. They come to hide. Behind your patience, your empathy, your unwavering belief that everyone deserves a second chance, they'll speak to your softness. Mirror your vulnerability. Not because they share it, but because they know how to wear it. To reach you, they'll bleed chaos into your life, drop by drop, while you convince yourself it's your purpose to clean it up. You'll tell yourself, they're just hurting. They didn't mean it. They'll change if I love them harder. But some people don't want to be healed. They want control. They want someone who won't walk away. Someone who will excuse the patterns, the lies, the erosion of boundaries, all in the name of compassion. And you'll play therapist, savior, emotional anchor. Until you forget you were never meant to be any of those things. You were meant to live, not to carry. You see, predators don't just smell fear, they smell kindness too. They smell your silence, your politeness, your unwillingness to hurt others, even when you're the one bleeding, and they use it. Not everyone you save will be thankful. Some will resent you for seeing their pain. Some will punish you for daring to love them in the places they've kept buried. It's not your job to rescue everyone who knocks on your door. Especially the ones who pick your lock and call it love. You are not their shelter. You are not their rehab center. You are not their last resort. You are allowed to protect your peace, even if that means turning away the wounded when they bring nothing but weapons, because healing isn't possible with someone who refuses to let go of the knife. Even when you're the one bleeding, you will lose yourself, not all at once. Not with noise or drama or tears, but quietly, piece by piece. Behind every yes you meant to say no to. It start small. You skip your rest to help them work. You silence your truth to protect their feelings. You pretend you're fine, just to keep the peace. You become what they need. And slowly forget what you were. You trade your hobbies for their schedules, your dreams for their expectations, your solitude for their chaos. And the worst part, you'll think you're doing the right thing, because the world taught you that being good means being selfless. That love means sacrifice. That worth is measured in how much of yourself you can give away before you finally collapse. But what if that was never true? What if love, real love, doesn't ask you to erase yourself? What if being good doesn't mean being gone? You'll look in the mirror one day and not recognize the eyes staring back. They'll look tired. Not from the weight of life, but from the weight of everyone else's. You'll scroll through your own thoughts and wonder, when did I last do something just for me? And the silence will answer you. Losing yourself doesn't always feel like falling. Sometimes it feels like drifting, gently, unknowingly, until you're miles from your own soul. But here's the truth: you don't owe anyone your identity. You don't need to disappear to be loved. The people who truly care for you will never ask you to go missing for their comfort. You are not just a helper, a fixer, a giver. You are a whole, living being, with needs, wants, and a voice that deserves to be heard. So turn around. Find your center. Say no. Say yes to yourself, because the only thing worse than being alone is being surrounded by people while no longer knowing who you are. You will become resentful, not because you're ungrateful, not because you stopped caring, but because your kindness was never meant to be endless. At first, it feels fulfilling. You help. You heal. You show up. You hold the weight when no one else can. You pride yourself on being the steady one, the one who never says no, who never asks for anything in return. But over time, something shifts. You begin to notice the silence. How no one checks in on you. How the phone rings only when they need something. How your empathy is never matched, only expected, and it begins to ache, not all at once, but slowly. A dull throb in your chest every time someone takes without asking. A sting behind your smile when you say, "It's fine," but it's not. An emptiness when you give again, knowing full well they'll never give back. You'll sit in rooms filled with people you've held up and feel completely unseen, and that's where resentment begins, not with rage, but with weariness, the kind of tired that seeps into your bones. The kind of tired that makes you question if kindness was ever worth it. You start to flinch at your own generosity. Not because you've stopped loving, but because you've learned that love, without reciprocity, becomes a burden, and yet you'll feel guilty. Guilty for feeling used. Guilty for thinking of yourself. Because you've been conditioned to believe that good people don't keep score, but you're not keeping score. You're just counting how many times you've been left empty. Here's the truth. You can't pour from a cup that's always leaking. You can't keep giving from a heart that's been ignored, dismissed, forgotten. Resentment is the alarm bell. It's your soul saying, this isn't love anymore. This is sacrifice without purpose. Listen to it, honor it, because if you don't, that slow-burning resentment will become your voice. And one day, you'll explode, not because of one moment, but because of every quiet time you swallowed your own needs, just to keep being kind. You will be expected to always be kind, not sometimes. Not when it's easy. But always, no matter the cost, because once the world sees you as the nice one, that becomes your role. Your identity. You're caged. You're no longer allowed to have bad days. You're not allowed to snap. Not allowed to say no. Not allowed to prioritize yourself, because the moment you do, they'll recoil. What happened to you? Why are you being like this? You've changed. They don't say that when you bend over backward. They don't say that when you silently pick up their mess. They only say it when you finally stop, when you set a boundary. When you raise your voice. When you reclaim your time. Suddenly, you're difficult. Aggressive. Cold, not because you are, but because you've dared to stop being endlessly agreeable. They loved you when you were quiet. When you made space for them. When you held back your opinions, your needs, your truth, just to keep them comfortable. And now, when you draw a line, they call it a wall, but it's not a wall. It's a door. A door you finally closed, because too many walked through without knocking. You start to realize that their love wasn't for you. It was for what you could do for them, and that stings. Not because you want to stop being kind, but because kindness, when demanded, becomes servitude, and you are not here to serve everyone's comfort at the expense of your soul. So no, you are not unkind for saying no. You are not wrong for needing space. You are not broken for having limits. You are human, and the expectation that you should always be calm, giving, and selfless, that is not love. That is control dressed in compliments. You owe no one your constant softness. You are allowed to have edges. To stand up. To stop performing kindness like it's your only value, because your worth is not measured by how easy you are to carry, but by how fiercely you protect the peace you fought to find. Your time will never feel like your own, not when you're kind. Not when you've built your life around being there for everyone else. You'll wake up to messages marked urgent. Not your emergencies, theirs. You'll rearrange your plans, cancel your rest, break your routine, just to make sure someone else doesn't feel uncomfortable. They won't notice, they won't ask what you had to give up to say yes. Because they've come to expect it. Because you've trained them, not with words, but with behavior. You always show up. So now, they assume you always will. You become the dependable one. The one they call at 2 a.m. The one who never flakes. The one who makes time, even when they don't, and at first, it feels good. Like purpose. Like value. Like you're needed, but then the weight creeps in. You miss meals, workouts, deadlines. You forget what your own voice sounds like when you're not replying to someone else's need. You start living in the margins of other people's schedules, and it gets quieter. The resentment. The exhaustion. The realization that your time has become a public resource, freely taken, rarely returned, and when, for once, you don't answer. They'll say you're distant, that you've changed, that you're selfish. They'll never say, "Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for always putting me first. Are you okay?" Because your availability has become your identity, but you were not born to be a calendar for other people's chaos. You are not a background character in their story. You have dreams, passions, a purpose that deserves space too. Your time is sacred. Treat it like it is. Because no one else will, until you do, and if they leave when you start protecting it, they were never here for you, just your presence. You will wake up one day, empty, not because of a single moment, but because of 1,000 small ones. 1,000 smiles forced through fatigue. 1,000 "I'm okay"s whispered through gritted teeth. 1,000 pieces of yourself handed out like candy, with no one ever noticing you were giving them away. You won't realize it at first that you'll still go through the motions. Still smile. Still help. Still say yes, but something inside you will feel hollow, like you're living underwater. Like you're showing up for a life that doesn't feel like yours anymore. Like you're surrounded by people who know your kindness, but have never met your pain, and then, one day, in the quiet, it will hit you. You don't know who you are without the giving, without the fixing, without the self-sacrifice, because somewhere along the way, you stopped being a person and became a role. A role everyone loved, because it served them, not because it reflected you. And when you look around for someone to lean on, they'll all be busy, silent, gone, because they were never really there for you. They were there for what you did for them. That's the cost of unguarded kindness. It empties you, in the name of love, but love shouldn't leave you depleted. Service shouldn't erase your soul. Connection shouldn't feel like a one-way street that ends at your door and never leaves a thank you behind. So breathe and mourn the parts of you that were given away too freely, but then rebuild, not with walls, but with discernment. Not with anger, but with boundaries. Not with fear, but with truth, because you deserve a life where kindness flows in both directions. Where your presence is cherished, not consumed. You are not empty. You were just overdrawn, and now, it's time to come home to yourself. You will mistake silence for peace, because when you're kind, endlessly kind, you learn to live in the quiet. Not the quiet that heals, but the kind that hides. You avoid conflict. You swallow hard truths. You convince yourself that keeping things calm is the same as keeping them right. You'll bite your tongue so many times it starts to scar. You'll tell yourself, "It's not worth it," when what you really mean is, "I'm too tired to explain my worth again." You choose harmony over honesty, again and again, until your entire world becomes a performance of politeness, and when someone crosses a line, you won't push back. You'll rationalize, excuse, overthink, because to speak your truth feels like violence, and you've been taught that kindness is quiet. So you stay silent. Even when it hurts. Even when they take too much. Even when your chest screams, "This isn't okay." You'll call it maturity. You'll call it grace. But it's not. It's fear. It's fatigue. It's a soul too bruised to risk another confrontation. But here's the tragedy: silence does not equal peace. Avoidance does not equal growth. And your truth, stifled and suffocating, doesn't disappear just because you buried it under a smile. Eventually, that silence will turn on you. It'll whisper in the night. It'll weigh down your chest. It'll bleed into your relationships until you don't know whether you're being kind or just afraid of being seen. So speak, even if your voice trembles. Even if it disrupts the calm. Even if it costs you approval, because your peace was never meant to come from quiet. It was meant to come from truth, and the world does not need more silent saints. It needs honest ones, ones who know that kindness and clarity can coexist. You will apologize for existing, not with words, always, but in posture. In silence. In how small you make yourself around others, because when you're kind, deeply kind, you learn to take up less space, to make room for everyone else. You'll say sorry when someone bumps into you. You'll feel guilty for asking for help. You'll second-guess every request, every emotion, every truth that might make someone else uncomfortable. You become fluent in self-editing. You study their reactions more than your own needs. You soften your voice, your wants, your presence. Until you forget what it felt like to be whole, you shrink, because somewhere along the way, you learned that being easy to love means being easy to manage. That being kind means never being a burden. That your feelings are dangerous, because they might make someone else feel responsible. So you apologize. For being tired. For needing space. For taking longer than expected to heal from wounds no one saw, you say sorry. For being human, and they love you for it, not because they see you, but because you never ask to be seen. Not because they understand you, but because you never make them try. But here's the truth, you are not too much. You are not an inconvenience. You are not a mistake waiting to be forgiven. You are allowed to exist, without earning it. You are allowed to need, without guilt. You are allowed to be, even when you are not useful to anyone else. Stop apologizing for being alive in the full range of what that means. You are not here to be palatable. You are not here to disappear gracefully. You are here to live, out loud, in color, with a voice that does not ask permission. Kindness does not require invisibility, and love, real love, does not demand your silence as payment. That if this spoke to something buried inside you, if you saw yourself in these quiet truths, then maybe it's time we start unlearning the lies we've told ourselves about what kindness truly means. You are not alone, and if you found value in these words, help someone else find them too. Like, comment, subscribe, not just to support this voice, but to join a space where softness is strength, and truth is healing. Until next time, protect your peace, and never apologize for who you are becoming.